Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, good morning. When I was mayor of Miami-Dade County, there was a facility down in Homestead that housed children, minors. And every day that there were Democrats outside demonstrating, saying that how horrible it was inside. Former Senator Kamala Harris, my predecessor, a lot of other ones were out there yelling, screaming how bad it was. So I decided as mayor of Miami-Dade County, I was actually going to go in and check it out because it was in my jurisdiction. So I checked it out. There's nothing wrong in there. What they were doing, they were teaching those children how to speak English. They were giving 3 square meals. They were in a dorm setting with a supervisor, with a chaperone. And then there was a bank of people that were actually calling around the country to find sponsors for these children. And the reason the children were there is because you can't house children in a detention center where adults are. That's why they were separated. But you know what they weren't? They weren't lost. You said we had 340,000 lost children under the Biden administration?
That is correct. That's a rough number because that's the best we can identify for sure, but that number we expect could go much higher.
Much higher than 340,000 lost children. And so the Democrats on the other side of the aisle here, they're yelling and screaming because the Trump administration separated them because they had to separate them, but actually found them sponsors, didn't lose them. And yet the Biden administration under Mayorkas lost over 340,000 children.
Let me clarify this too. We do not separate families. If families want to stay together, we have a detention center in Texas where we put family units. The only time that happens is when we ask the parent if they want the child to be deported with them or not. Some parents choose not to because they want their children to stay in the U.S. And then we have to find sponsors.
But the difference was when they were separated, we found sponsors.
That's right.
The Biden administration just lost them. And a lot of them are probably being sex trafficked or they're being used for slave labor, et cetera. Would you agree with that?
I would. Unfortunately, we had that suspicion because the ones we have found, they were actually where they said the person who picked them up at the border was. We had to track them. The ones we can't find, there's a reason why they're off the grid. And it's very, very concerning. HSI is spending a tremendous amount of resource, and ICE is spending a lot of resource on trying to locate these kids because it's vitally important. And they should never have been released the way they were on the border when they showed up like that. It's shameful and disgraceful.
It is shameful. It's disgraceful. It's one of the worst things I've ever heard of, how we, the American government, can do that to children coming in and allow them to be abused. Now, my next question is this. Who finds them? What agency of yours finds them or is trying to find them?
HSI and ICE is trying to find them. And
ICE, the agency that my Democrats don't want to fund. Is that the one?
Yeah, that's been defunded for quite some time, yes.
The ones that are trying to find the children. It's ICE?
Yes.
Okay. Well, how much more money do you need so that we can actually focus on the still hundreds of thousands of children that are missing?
Right.
Is this part of this budget, or do you need additional funds for that?
Well, we did have it in the budget. Unfortunately, it got stripped out, and the budget that was put forth that Congress originally passed in the House and then decided to flip their vote and vote against it, it made it difficult. So what we want to do is have continuous funding, which is why Reconciliation 2.0 is vitally important, because every time we have a lack in funding, we have a lack of investigations going forward because we're limited to what we can do.
Will the reconciliation give you the money, the reconciliation package being looked at the Senate, will it give you the money to go find those children?
It'll give us 3 years of continuous funding, which allows continuity between local and state officials. Keep in mind, we don't do all the research. We actually partner and give tools for IPO addresses that help find these sex trafficking rings. And we break them up every single day, but every time we have a lapse of funding, we have to relax those contracts. And most states, and especially small municipalities, do not have the resources to continue. And typically we have agents that are actually assigned to those agencies that work side by side, and we have to recall them. And that's what disrupts the continuing.
Mr. Secretary, this should be one of your top, if not your top priority, to find those children and get them away from the situation that they're at.
It is one of the hardest missions we have, yet the most gratifying when we rescue these children out. And we're seeing a tremendous amount of kids coming in from this country that are being trafficked.
One final point, I will agree with my colleague from California. I think you need to use your discretion a little bit more as to who is being deported, who's being arrested, et cetera. Let's go after the worst of the worst. To have six of the worst not being picked up, that needs to be rectified.
So, real quick on that, we have
Secretary.
48 hours, yeah, but just to respond to that, we have 48 hours from the time they're in custody to the time to pick them up. And time they're in custody, not the time we get called. And if they call us, let's say 6 hours, and they've had the individual with 42 hours, and we have 6 hours to respond, it's difficult. If we can get anywhere in 48 hours, but once they're arrested and we don't get informed until the day after or right before the clock expires, it's hard for us to do that. And there's no excuse for it, but we just don't have the resources to get there like we need to.
Fair enough. Yield back.
Support journalism you trust. Support PBS News. Donate now, or even better, start a monthly contribution today.